T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5. All three engines up and burning. 2, 1, 0, and liftoff.
Coach on Fire Radio.
Hey everybody, welcome again to another edition of Your Journey to Success podcast, brought to you this week by Fractional CMO. I'm your host, Kenny Weiss. I'm a life coach and speaker and author based here in Phoenix. The goal here each week is to create a movement of people who are passionate about getting real information to move out of something I like to call the worst day cycle. All of us have suffered some sort of worst day. For me, it was finding my alcoholic mother passed out naked on the toilet when she was 10 years old. I've discovered that because no one's been willing to really tackle the real solutions, that day creates a self-destructive process that keeps all of us from the life we want. It's not our fault. We just haven't been given the right information. I describe that process in a truly thought-provoking way you won't find anywhere else. More importantly, I give you a roadmap on how to overcome it in my new book, Your Journey to Success, which is available in all formats on Amazon. So each week I like to bring a guest on who specializes in a certain aspect of that worst day cycle and how it played out in their life, so you can gain the right information and tools to finally step out of that and step into what I believe everybody has. We're all inherently great and we all have a purpose. So today, with that in mind, I have Michael Dash, and he's going to share how he transformed his life and started beginning to live in his greatness. A little background on Michael. He grew up in a small town in New Jersey, and in 2007, knowing only one person in the entire state of Utah, he moved there to open a business he runs today, a thriving technology talent acquisition firm called Parallel HR Solutions, which he is the CEO and president of. When he's not working, he's helping in his community, feeding the homeless. He's an active member of the Leukemia Lymphoma Society's team and training fundraising group, and he does a lot of other fundraising adventures. So Michael, welcome. Say hello to everybody. How's your day going?
Thank you very much, Kenny. It's been a great Monday morning. Good time to start off the week on a good note. So I appreciate you having me. And I actually just got back about a month and a half ago from climbing Mount Kilimanjaro.
Really?
With the Leukemia Lymphoma Society, and it was an amazing experience.
That's awesome. Well, when we talked on the phone about having you on the show, I got a little bit of background, but we kind of purposely said I don't have a list of questions or anything. We're just going to wing it. So I want to start there. I like to go deep. So tell me about your worst day. What was the catalyst for you to start pursuing really the greatness that you are now?
Oh, Kenny, my worst day. I have multiple worst days. That's why I'm a great person for the show, Kenny. So I actually had an addiction as well. I had based on your earlier reference, but
sure.
I had a gambling addiction for over 20 years and also had a cocaine addiction for part of that time.
Okay.
And, I've been in recovery for the last 12 years. I've been clean from the last time that I gambled, and over 6 years with the cocaine. And those were some dark times. Fortunately for me, the person I really destroyed or really hurt was me and not a bunch of people around me. So I was able to, out of curiosity more than anything, walk into a GA meeting because I was just curious. My brother had been going, and I was curious what they did to my brother because he wasn't doing the same things that I was doing anymore, and he wouldn't even talk to me about sports, for instance. So out of curiosity, I went to a GA meeting, and it actually changed my life. in terms of allowing me to have the tools to start understanding the disease and to stop gambling.
What's that moment like? Because when I quit drinking and, I got so many addictions, it'd take up the whole show to talk about all of them. But describe for people, well, two things. One, the moment you made the choice to do something about it. Do you remember that day?
Yeah, I remember the day because my brother and I used to drive up to Massachusetts from New Jersey every Thanksgiving. That's where our family was. That's where we would have Thanksgiving, our extended family. And that's actually where my gambling started, like when I was literally 10 years old, from my uncle. That's how I started gambling. So it was apropos that I decided to go check out Gamblers Anonymous on a drive up there. I remember it clear as day. It was really a couple small things that happened that made me make that leap. And we were in the car, and my brother wouldn't let me put on sports radio, which I listened to all the time because I gambled on all these sports. Yeah. And he was telling me, no, we can't listen to it. We got to listen to music. We were arguing back and forth in the car. And he's just like, look, I don't listen to that anymore. I'm not gambling. I started going to Gamblers Anonymous. And I was like, what? I'm like, why would you do that? I mean, what a bunch of losers. I mean, you're going to Gamblers Anonymous? What's wrong with you? And he convinced me to listen to the music, and we listened to it for 3.5 hours, and it was actually a very calming, peaceful ride. Yeah. And I remember thinking to myself after it, like, hey, what is this GA all about? What did they do to my brother? I want my brother back. Yeah. Right? So it wasn't like I didn't have this like rock bottom moment, although I had a lot of bad moments and I was very troubled. But it was that kind of trigger. It was curiosity more than anything. And the next week I decided to go and check it out, and I didn't gamble again after going in there. Now I didn't believe in it for a couple of years. Okay. I just did what they said and listened to them. But I didn't believe in it, and I wasn't healing or any of that stuff. But I just listened and abstained from gambling. So that's basically what started me on that path.
I hear that story a lot in addiction recovery of people going and not really buying in. But what kept you, because that happens a lot, where people aren't really ready to step out of that old life. They still want. For you, when I hear that story, what I hear is someone who still has their toe back in the addiction. You may not be doing it, but you haven't let it go. Can you explain what's going on in that time frame for people? Because I know that well too. And how is that for you?
Well, I think it's a lot of confusion, really. Yeah. You've lived your life a certain way, and for me, like I started gambling when I was 10, so I didn't know anything else. I didn't know how to like lead a quote unquote normal life, which I don't really believe in that, but whatever it was at the time. So for me, it was like there were a couple guys in New Jersey in that room who got in my face, who called me out of my bullshit. Yeah. Excuse my French, and who really could see right through me. I realized when I was in that room, when I walked in there, I thought the same thing. I'm like, look at these degenerate losers, like I'm surrounded by. Like, I work in New York City. I put a suit on every day. Look at these guys. I got all these blue collar guys, which and men and women, I should say, not just guys. But all these blue collar people who I actually respect, like more than almost a lot of other jobs, right? Yeah. But at the time, I was an arrogant prick. So, like, I thought, I'm in a room with a gym teacher and a mailman and a firefighter and, like, a waitress and all this stuff. And I thought I was better than everybody. I mean, that's frankly what I did. I'm like, I'm a business development director in New York City. I have all these suits and these blah, blah, blah. So I just had a negative attitude towards a lot of things. And when I went in there, after 2 hours in that meeting, everybody went around and told their story. I felt more at home around those people than I did like my best friends. So I knew I was in the right place. Yeah. So I just said, I don't know, I don't really believe in a lot of what I'm hearing, but I'm going to listen to these guys because some of these people were clean for 15, 20, 30 years.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to listen, and then I'll figure it out along the way. And that's what I did.
That's kind of a very standard process too, of when we go through something as a kid, like me finding my mom, you have to find a way to survive that. And so you create a persona, whether it's drinking, drugs, gambling, sex, I don't care what it is. You create a persona to survive that. Now, at least with me, and I found it when people get past that arrogance, what they find is they know deep down they're capable. There's something else bigger in their life that they're capable of. And this is getting in the way. But really, like I say this all the time, I've never met anyone who's afraid of failing. What we're afraid of is success, to step into that greatness, because we'd have to let go of this false self, and it's all we know. And because our brain seeks what it knows, not right or wrong, we don't know what that transition will be. It's too big. And even if I know this is self-destructive, at least I know it. And it's keeping me where I am. So it sounds like it took you 2 or 3 years to decide to step into that greatness. How do you remember that day when you started living the program or living recovery?
Well, I remember being prepared to start working the steps, which I never really did the first couple of years. So, during that transition, I moved from New Jersey to Utah. Okay. So during that time period. So
the Utah move was all part of it.
Yeah, I mean, they were separate things. Like I was following a business opportunity that allowed me, or that paved the way for me to come to Utah. But I was about 1.5 years, 2 years clean when I made that move.
Okay.
And I remember one of the first things I did when I got here to Utah was look up where a Gamblers Anonymous meeting was. I didn't have a car. It was the second day I was here. Wow. And I took a cab. We didn't have Lyft and Uber 10 years ago. Yeah. I took a cab up to the VA to find the meeting, to walk into a meeting with like 5 people. I was like really depressed because I come from meetings in New Jersey with like 20 to 30 people. Yeah. And I walked into a meeting with 5 people here, but that was the first thing that I did, or one of the first things I did when I moved here. So I do remember, kind of working the steps here and things of that nature. And for the most part, I kind of started buying into it. I knew I had a lot of work to do. I started running the program here, chairing it, as they say, with a couple other people. We would share. So I stayed involved for several years after that. But that wasn't really just becoming sober was a small step in multiple things that happened to me, because I had a lot of setbacks after that led me to an even darker place than I was when I was gambling.
Do you want to tell us about some of those? Are you comfortable with that?
Yeah. I mean, hey, this is about diving deep. Right?
That to me, that's where I want to go. I think that's the only way we can help people. I think there's a whole group of people dying to get permission to go to these places. They just need someone else to do it. And that's what I want to try and do here. So if you're willing to go there,
100%.
Awesome.
That's why I tell my story. And that's like my goal and mission moving forward is, I'm an expert in how not to do shit.
Yeah.
That's what I'm an expert in. Right. And I think there's lessons to be learned from that. So, I had moved out to Utah, started the staffing company with an ex-business partner of mine. We grew it for 5 years. We're doing really well, had different visions. I ended up buying her out. And then less than 6 months later, we ended up in a lawsuit. Wow. And I've been in that lawsuit for 6 years.
Wow.
6 years. So it's like I've had friends get married and divorced in the amount of time that I've been in this lawsuit. So it's been a long time. And excuse me, I want to take a sip of water, but I learned a lot along the way because I made a lot of emotional decisions along the way. And I learned the kind of the pain that goes along when you make decisions from your emotions. And that's in business. That's in your personal life. That's in legal world. That's anywhere. you know?
Yeah.
So I made a lot of decisions from an emotional standpoint, and I was also trying to expand